Hello, and welcome to Physics 10. I'm your instructor, your professor. My name is Dr. Trevor Gonzalez, and I'm happy to be teaching Physics 10, this time remotely, of course, and we're going to be in this class together and doing lots of interesting things. I've taught this class quite a few times at Las Positas College, as well as at other colleges. I have not taught it remotely before, and it's been a challenge, but a rewarding one to get this class to be online and to still cover the content of descriptive physics in the same, hopefully interesting and exciting way. So let's get to it. My plan in this video is to go over some key things about the syllabus, some key aspects of the syllabus, call attention to them, as well as just to give you a quick run through about what to look for on Canvas as you use that as your main portal for the course. Okay? All right, so first thing of attention here is that my office hours are yet to be determined. I will be making an announcement in the next day, so next 24 hours, regarding when those office hours are going to be held. Those are going to be in an online format. I will be available through chat in Canvas, and I can open up and the built-in conference feature through Canvas, so I can open up that and do videos if need be, but I'll use text if there's not a need for video. I prefer that over any sort of just purely video-based format because of the bandwidth and the other my bandwidth getting used for homeschooling my child, my wife who's also teaching online, so I have to kind of prioritize how that's going to work out. But the time, I have to think about what time makes the most sense, so we'll kind of move forward on that in the next few hours. We have a textbook, all right, more on that in just a minute about where you're going to be finding it. These are called the student learning outcomes. This can kind of give you a broad overview of what to expect, but no more so than just looking over the table of contents in the book itself. Canvas, okay? So Canvas is going to be very important for the course. Announcements, lecture slides, lecture videos, quizzes, exams, and other relevant class materials are going to be posted on Canvas. The focal point of Canvas are the modules, which each cover 2 or 3 chapters and become unlocked on an approximately weekly basis, okay? All the graded homework, moving on to homework, will be completed online with Mastering Physics, which is linked to the course Canvas site. Registering can be completed through the link, okay? So that's where the textbook comes into play. I'll scroll up a bit here, because this textbook has a portal through Pearson. It's separate from Canvas, but again, it is linked to Canvas, so there's quite a bit of crossover in terms of the data, but you do have to actually click on that link and be transferred over to a different site. That's where you're going to do all of your homework, and you have to pay for it. It isn't free. It's part of the textbook cost. It's actually included in like the library version, although I'm sure many of you are not picking up the copy from the library. But if you buy a new textbook, it comes with that access code, okay? Maybe you've seen this idea before. So the access code is required. You cannot do the homework or the quizzes without the access code. Okay, so assignments and due dates are listed after you have added yourself to the course. There are homework assignments due every week. The dates are listed in the calendar below. Okay, so you can definitely cross-reference the dates below, but you'll see them pretty easily when you log into the Pearson Mastering Physics site. Okay, again, this means that it's going to be kind of separate from the modules because there's not going to show up in the modules. You're not going to see it in the same way you're going to see other assignments. So the two things that you have to actually move away from Canvas to a different site are going to be homework and quizzes. More on quizzes in just a moment. Now, you will see all of those scores from homework and quizzes, as well as other assignments, which I'll mention more in just a moment as well, in one place in the grade book that's on Canvas, because they are actually automatically synced with that grade book. Now, the only difference is you have to physically complete the homeworks and physically, well, I guess digitally, complete the quizzes on another site, okay? Please, email me. I think the biggest thing that will happen is that when you try to register with that link, your pop-up options in your browser will block it for many of you, okay? Now, there's easy workarounds. You can simply say allow or allow pop-ups for this site. If you're not familiar how to do that, that makes sense. You can just do a quick Google search and say, how do I allow pop-ups for a single site? And it's a quick link depending on what browser you're using, Safari, Google Chrome, Firefox, whatever it may be, okay? Now, sometimes the problems can be a little more persistent depending on, maybe you have like a different operating system, like an older one, for example, an older browser. Maybe you just haven't been in the habit of updating it. So, things will come up, okay? Expect that. But just expect some quick searches to correct that. Now, that said, you can ask me, but I'm not tech support. I may not be able to walk you through every little iteration of versions that can happen, all right? All right. So, homework will be a combination of interactive tutorials and math-based problems. So my idea here is that the homework, it has some great tutorials built into it, some videos, some really neat interactive things. So I definitely want to take advantage of those. But the main thing is that's where you're going to practice any problems that require algebra. All right, because it's a small portion of the course. And that's basically what the homework is kind of calling attention to. And you'll see that is in contrast to the quizzes and the discussions. Okay, so on to participation. All right, participation is graded, and you'll see it in the form of discussions. All right, and that's what I'm going to be coming down and showing the actual Canvas page in just a moment. Okay, so all right, actually before I go on to participation, I want to wrap up with homework. Okay, so I mentioned homework, a few key points. Now, here we're looking at the Canvas page. This is Physics 10, right here section. So when you log on, the home page are going to be the modules. Module 1, which covers chapters 1 through 3, is already kind of laid out here for you. It's a work in progress, okay? The future ones, I haven't added anything to them yet. I will, okay, over future weeks. You can see as we scroll down, we have the modules that cover the entirety of the book, all the way up through chapter 34. All right, they're short chapters. You look into individual modules. Well, you found this video through the welcome and weekly look ahead. All right, so if you just kind of started clicking, that's where you would have first seen this video. All right, there will always be a weekly look ahead video. There's not going to be a welcome, except of course in the first module. This video, case in point, the syllabus. All right, that's the document here that I have in the video. You can look at it yourself. All right, there will always be a number of lectures. All right, I go ahead and put up the PowerPoint videos. So these are going to be the ones that I'm going to be lecturing from. So what is the format of lecturing look like? Well, more on that in a minute. There's also going to be essay questions. Okay, well, the essay questions are the participation. Okay, so we'll come back to that, but I want to wrap up on discussing homework first. Okay, so again, things are pretty self-contained here, except notice no homework. Well, where do you find homework? Well, depending on kind of like a mobile browser or a computer-based browser, you're going to see something like this. And so I'm going to click over here, and I'm going to go over and take a look at actually. All right. I need to see the sidebar. Some other courses I'm teaching. I had actually thought that it's this one here. Okay. All right. So this is just how you look for kind of other options. This is where you'd send a message directly to me, for example. But this drop down is where you're going to find, maybe you want to check your grades. All right. I won't go through those steps. But the big thing that you're going to want to do early on, so you can get a head start on the homework, is My Lab and Mastering. Okay. So you click on that. You're going to see a link when you do that says Get Started. I've already set mine up, so mine says Open. Yours will say Get Started. One of the first things we'll do is ask you to create an account and to pay for it. Okay, it's about $70. All right, unless you bought a new textbook and it's included. There's an option that includes an e-text. That one over the years has been right about 100, about 99 or so. You're welcome to do that. I don't think the e-text is all that necessary. It's kind of slow. A physical textbook can be useful. I think that can be worth the cost. But the e-text, I personally wouldn't justify the cost, but I've heard from other students that they enjoy having it. Okay? So I'll go ahead and click on that so we can take a look at what it looks like when you actually have already set up your account. Okay. As an extra step, depends on the browser, but in my case, there's an extra step. As you saw, I had to click on Open Mastering. They've kind of been changing their platform a bit. Okay, and this is obviously the instructor portal, but I want to show you the calendar because you'll see something similar there. So if you look on your calendar, you're going to see assignments. Okay, so you're going to say you're going to see Quiz 1 when it becomes available. And so currently it's unavailable, and you are going to see homework 1 again when it comes available. All right, and homework 1, you have basically like I think 9 days to complete it, so it should become available on the 17th. We can double check. It says here, it's going to become available tonight at midnight on the 16th. So as soon as Monday, our first kind of start day, homework 1 will already be available. All right, so you just click on that homework assignment. Homework assignments, you have as many attempts as you want, although you lose 3% for a numerical answer question on each attempt. If it's a multiple choice, you lose whatever the number of questions are. So if it's a multiple choice question that has 3 options and you get it wrong in the first try, you've lost a third of the points available for that question. So at most, if you get it right on the second try, you could get 60%. Okay. That's on the individual question. There's going to be around 20 homework questions in an assignment. They're designed to take about 2 hours to complete. Again, they're a mix of kind of watching videos, some interactive things, and specifically, as I said before, math questions. Okay, but they're all based in the browser. You go through the homework, you fill in the dialog boxes, and so on. Okay, if you've done anything like that before, in terms of math-based homework, it's going to be very familiar. If you haven't, you're welcome to send me a message and just ask me about whatever question you may have. Okay, so that's the homework. Okay, I'll reference this briefly again when we go over quizzes. But let's get back to our modules, which you get on the home page. All right, so if we go to home, that's an automatic take you back to modules. So here we have module 1, Introduction and Basics of Motion. All right, so participation. The graded form of participation will take the form of either submitting answers to short essay questions each week or elaborating on your classmates' submitted responses. Okay, so the format of this participation is through discussion boards that are part of each weekly module. So you can see it right there. Okay. Each weekly discussion prompt will include 4 essay questions, which you can individually choose to answer if no other students have already answered. You can also elaborate on other students' answers with a comment on the discussion post if you think of something more to add, or if there is a small correction to be made. And you have to think of something, at least, because you have to do at least 2 of those. Posts and comments will be graded on completeness and clarity. Posts and comments are due by the date of the exam covering the relevant material. So since chapters 1 through 3, which are covered in module 1, aren't going to be on an exam until October, you technically could wait a while before you submit a discussion question or a follow-up response to someone else's discussion question and answer. Okay? Participation represents an opportunity to practice the textbook questions in the class that require short essays to answer. Okay, so homework called attention to math problems. These ones call attention to these paragraph response or short essay questions. So to potentially receive full participation credit, you will have to post at least 1 essay prompt answer, just 1, and 2 comments, okay? And that's over the entire semester. So really, you don't have to worry about that right away, but you also have to, importantly, be aware that you can only answer 1 per assignment, okay? Now, if there are extenuating circumstances, like if you missed a bunch because you were gone or something, but really the rule is you can only answer 1 per prompt, okay? And I'll show you what I mean in just a second. So, in other words, if you get to the end and, you're like, oh, no one's going to choose the last 4, well, you can't get enough responses from that because you could do 1 for your answer, but you couldn't do 2 for your responses, okay? Participation will be worth 10% of your final grade, and in case I think I forgot to say it, homework is 20% of your final grade. I'll quickly summarize that in just a moment, okay? All right, so let's take a look at the first one. All right, so this one is available. You can do it whenever. So first over here, I have a few bullet points. If you go ahead and click on the discussion, the following are the 4 short essay questions for chapters 1, 2, and 3. Okay, that's module 1. Either give an answer to one of the questions that is at least 4 sentences long, so there's some more specifics there, or add something significant to someone else's answer. Okay, so that would be the response, which you would have to do 2. The answer, you'll have to do 1 over the whole semester. You cannot receive credit for answering a question that is already answered. Okay, so someone's claimed it, that's it. You can't do it. Okay, you won't get credit for it. You are limited to 1 comment per classmate's answer. Okay, so you can't comment twice and be like, oh, I got my 2 responses. You are limited to 1 answer or comment per week. All right, so that's per module. All right, every week you'll get a chance to answer short essay questions in this format. All right, and that limiting rule is because of the grading, the way that I have to grade these discussion questions. All right, so here are the first 4. We won't get into these, but these are definitely something you'll look at after you've seen the lectures and so on. These will make a lot more sense. All right, so we can go ahead and go back then to home, our modules. Okay, now quizzes. So there will be quizzes every week. They will be composed of multiple choice questions, and all quizzes are online through Mastering Physics, the same place as the homework. Each quiz will have 10 questions, and you have 15 minutes to complete the quiz. You cannot retake a quiz. So unlike the homework, which is really forgiving, you get multiple chances, is really for practice. Okay, that's what it's there for. It takes some time, but you gotta practice. The quizzes, I want you to be able to answer those questions quickly. Okay, they're about quick response. I don't want you necessarily spending a bunch of time to double check your answer. Right? That's the idea. So it's a real tight time frame. They're conceptual questions. So quizzes represent an opportunity to practice the multiple choice questions in the class that require memorizations of facts. All right. So Newton's third law is what? Drag has this effect. It's all about conceptual ideas. If you read the textbook in particular, like actually read the chapter, the whole thing, then this will kind of come to you because you'll have that level of understanding. Okay. It is that level of understanding that comes from reading more so than just coming from like, I'm just going to jump ahead and do the math problems, make sure I can do them, make sure I watch the lecture video. Yeah, that'll help. But in particular, reading the textbook is going to make sure that you get the quizzes done. Okay? So quizzes will be worth 20% of your final grade, and your lowest quiz scores drop. Notice that the homework in quiz, you're allowed to miss one. Since participation is, you only have to do one answer and 2 responses over the whole semester, there's no sense in dropping one of those. It's actually not that much. Okay, but again, the quiz right here, right? There's a quiz. It's timed. The homeworks are not timed, just to reiterate that. All right, exams. So the exams will kind of show up in the respective module, so whatever module it falls under, you'll see the exam actually show up there. There will be 2 midterm exams and a final comprehensive exam. The dates of the exams are listed on the calendar below, so that's great. Make sure you're available on that date. Each of the 2 exams will focus on the recent chapters as outlined in the calendar. The final exam will be cumulative, but I'll have about a third new material that is not on either of the midterm exams. Exams will be a combination of multiple choice questions. Okay, that quizzes were your practice, math-based problems, and short essay problems. So you see that really I'm feeding into the exams. Participation feeds into part of the exam, quizzes feed into part of the exam, homework feeds into part of the exam. Okay. Each midterm will have 40 multiple choice problems, okay, worth 1 point each, 2 math-based problems worth 10 points each, and 4 short essay questions worth 10 points each for a total of 100 points. So now you see the weighted value of the different things, okay? So 20% of every exam requires that you're able to do algebra problems like you saw in the homework. 40%, a bigger chunk, requires that you're able to answer multiple choice problems like you saw in the quizzes, okay? The final exam will be 60 multiple choice questions, 3 math-based problems, and 6 essays. So it's just 1.5 times as long. Many questions, problems, and essays on exams will be from quizzes, homework, and discussion boards, right? So sometimes I'll just draw them word from word. Not all of them, but that's to make sure that you've seen these things. Well, hey, that's great. It'll pay off, okay? Each midterm exam will be 10% of your final grade, and the final exam will be 30%. Okay, so 30 is worth over, way more than the midterms. Okay, the final is a big deal. All right. Both midterms will be held on Mondays from noon to 2. They are timed. Okay. Then the final exam will be held on December 14th from 10 to 2. Okay. So the format of the exam is going to be on Canvas. All the multiple choice questions will be embedded in Canvas, and you will be required to upload documents for your answers to the math questions and potentially the essay questions if you choose to upload a document. Otherwise, you can just type up the questions. Okay. But if you feel like you need to draw a diagram or something, then you may need to upload something. Okay. But the math-based problems, that 20% of every exam, absolutely requires that you handwrite something, you scan it, and you upload it as a PDF. I will be reiterating this in an announcement closer to the date of the first exam, and from then you'll get it, right? Because the format of the class will make sense. Okay? All right, this is just a summary of what percentages of your overall points in the class earn you certain letter grades, and that will be submitted to your transcript. This is just a summary of what the scores are, right? 20% for homework, 20% for quizzes, 10% participation, 20 for exams because it's 10 each, and then 30 for the final. All right, so it's 50-50, 50 for exams, 50 for everything that's non-exams. Here's the calendar that was mentioned a few times above. You can see every week, right? So the 17th, tomorrow, right? Start date, and then on Monday and Wednesday, right? Those are our 2 kind of meeting days. You see, right, there we got stuff, okay? So we have quizzes. Basically, quizzes are always going to be due on Wednesdays, Okay, they're always going to become available on Mondays, so you have basically 3 days to complete the quiz, but once you start it, then it's timed, remember, right? So you can't like come back to it later. You start it, you got to finish it in 15 minutes, but you can choose whenever to do that within a 3-day period, because I'm sure you all have schedules, and so I need to give you that flexibility. Homework, you can just start and stop however you want, and the homework is generally due on Sundays, okay? All right. Each module, which is each week, covers usually 2 chapters. That's definitely the norm. Every so often I have a module that covers 3 chapters, and there's actually one module, if you kind of scroll down, that only covers a single chapter. That's just the way it worked out. Okay, you can see exam 1 is on October 5th, good thing to take note of. Exam 2 is on November 30th, and finally the final exam, as I mentioned before, is on the 14th of December, okay, which is a Monday. All right, so we actually stick with that format. All of our exams are on Mondays. All right, and I did have the correct date up here. Yeah, all right. Anyway, so the topics are mentioned, so you can kind of, these are all the things we're covering. They may mean something to you. We're certainly covering a lot of ideas that get mentioned in lots of disciplines. This physics isn't siloed off from everything else. Chemistry, biology, just kind of common knowledge, but also there's things you probably haven't seen before, and that's fine. That's what we're doing. Okay, again, this is a descriptive class. You can kind of see up front that the math-based part is only a fifth of the class, all right? And I make sure that it's not the main focus. You have to be able to do some, but more importantly, you have to be able to kind of interpret the information and be able to write about it or memorize it, okay? All right. So the last thing I wanted to mention, because it's relevant to the calendar and this idea of Monday, Wednesday. So what's actually happening during the scheduled time? All right. So again, I said that, it's just like office hours. I'm not going to be using Zoom. So instead, I will be posting videos asynchronously where I'll discuss the topics in the slides that are posted, right? The slides that are in each module, like lecture 1, PowerPoint, right? Lecture 2, PowerPoint, lecture 3, PowerPoint. So I'll be going over those in a similar format to this welcome video, and I will post those, link those up to their respective modules, and I'll always do that ahead of time of the scheduled class meeting. And then during the scheduled class meeting, much like office hours, I'll be available for chat or turning on video to access for you to answer follow-up questions. Okay, so there's some big advantage of this. First, having kind of the scheduled time where it's going to be me lecturing. Yeah, I think that's what I would normally do. I can get through this material. We'll be able to break it up with questions, and so on. And that's great, but it doesn't work all that well for remote lecture, right? So I'd rather just give everything up front asynchronously and then just have a lot more open time for questions, okay? Now, and then having that extra open time for questions means that you can kind of work around that schedule, right? You don't have to show up for that schedule. You don't have to be available on Monday from 12:30 to 1:45, okay? If you have a pressing question, well, yeah, that'd be a good time to show up. That's where I'm willing to be able to do that. But it's kind of just office hours plus. So maybe you could show up to office hours, which would be a different time, not on the Monday, Wednesday schedule. I'll put it like on a Thursday or something, to kind of break it up. Maybe a Friday, right? But again, I'll be announcing that briefly. So that's that's what to expect. Okay, so those times are relevant because I'll always be available from 12:30 to 1:45, but the lectures will not always go up at those times. They'll always go up ahead of those times. Okay, all right. So this is the welcome video. There's in terms of looking ahead to this week, that's kind of, we kind of mentioned it, like in this week, look ahead for an announcement about office hours, look ahead for the first quiz happening on Wednesday, and make sure that you're starting to work on that homework with the idea that it's going to be due on Sunday. Make sure you're working out access to get into the homework, because I half my class always has technical issues with that. Not your fault. It's just that whole pop-up issue. And just send me a message. Consider getting on there and doing interacting with the class and letting me know if what your concerns are or what you're excited about regarding this class. All right, well, I better wrap it up so I don't drag it on forever, and I'm looking forward to teaching you this semester very much.